Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and the Trump administration talking to representatives of the Chinese government about where they're going to settle when it comes to the trade relationship. Constructive negotiations were held over a couple of days, so saith both sides. Besant and Trade Rep Jameson Greer saying so to reporters in Stockholm. They're going to report back to Trump, who'll make the final decision on an extension of the current pause. One option for Trump to approve, they said, involves renewing the tariff pause for another 3 months, which is set to expire August 12th. This was after that, tit for tat, running the tariffs on both sides up to triple digits. U.S. levies on Chinese imports right now stand at about 50 to 55% for most goods. Obviously well higher than the levels negotiated in recent days with the EU as well as Vietnam, Japan, Indonesia. And maybe this is part of a make good in terms of trying to get to a better place with respect to access to the Chinese Communist Party's market. The reversal on H20 AI chips. The Trump administration will now grant licenses to NVIDIA so that it can sell its H20 chips to Chinese parties. This is a reversal from the position that the Trump administration took in April, which was to prohibit the sale of said chips to the Chinese, as the AI race is on here. For more on sort of the state of play, as well as commentary on that reversal in course, pleased to be joined by Gordon Chang, author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, as well as The Great U.S.-China Tech War. You can follow Gordon Chang on X at Gordon G. Chang, C-H-A-N-G, at Gordon G. Chang is Gordon Chang's handle on X. Gordon Chang, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan.
So what do you make of where the trade negotiations stand and how that reversal on those NVIDIA AI-related chips, how that plays into it?
For the big picture, an extension of, say, 90 days, I think actually works to the benefit of the U.S. Normally, delay in trade talks helps China because it gives them more time to engage in predatory trade practices, as well as steal our intellectual property. But this is a particularly different situation, and it's different because of what President Trump has done. He's been stitching up these trade deals, especially the historic deal with the EU that the president announced on Sunday. What this does is it shuts off China from Europe. And that's really, really good for us because it puts China in a difficult position. So as time progresses, President Trump is actually, I think, putting the U.S. in a stronger position by isolating China. Now, on the H20 chips, I think this was a mistake. The United States granted that permission and permission to AMD for its MI308 chip because they wanted China to sell rare earths and magnets to the United States. But, and of course we need to buy, but China needs to sell those rare earths too. And a previous embargo that China placed on the export of rare earths, this was 2010 to Japan, it completely failed. So we have a lot more bargaining position. And these AI chips help China integrate artificial intelligence into their military systems. So there's a real world consequence to this, and it ain't good.
Well, why? What's your intuition as why the Trump administration would make this change in approach?
Well, because they wanted the rare earths, but you got to remember that we have more chips in this question than the Chinese do. We hold the high cards. So, for instance, we could stop the sale of parts for Boeing airplanes that China runs. All sorts of things. China absolutely right now needs access to the U.S. market. And if they don't have it, their economy fails. If their economy fails, their political system probably goes down with it. So President Trump had the high cards, and I don't think he had to make this concession on chips. But in any event, China's military is going to become much more capable with the sale of these chips.
Well, the approach that China is taking in this this much ballyhooed artificial intelligence race, what is it that we should understand about their thinking when it comes to AI?
Well, China's placing great emphasis on AI, as everybody should, because whoever dominates AI will dominate the 21st century, as people say. China is catching up on AI. It is not ahead of us, as some Americans think, because China, first of all, doesn't have the ability to make chips, and that's why they're buying NVIDIA and AMD chips, because they can't make them themselves. So they're behind on chip making, which is crucial, because if you control chip making, you control AI. But also DeepSeek, which is the Chinese competitor, is not as impressive as they make it out to be. So I think a lot of Americans have just been intimidated by Chinese announcements of their progress.
There was a think piece by a number of academics over at the Jamestown Foundation assessing the this is their term. This is their title of the piece: Terminal Authority Assessing the CCP's Emerging Crisis of Political Succession. And while they say in the review that Xi continues to dominate the Chinese party state system, despite high-level purges, unusual military reshuffles, and persistent rumors of elite dissatisfaction, there is no visible indication that Xi's personal authority has meaningfully eroded. They say that sort of in sum, but they also say, especially over the last year, unusual developments and concerning trends have triggered speculation about Xi's position. The number of these anomalies has now reached a critical mass and received sufficient attention that they cannot be fully ignored. And so then they lay out sort of a structured approach to thinking about these so-called anomalies. I mean, without getting too deep into the weeds and going through the three possible scenarios that the Jamestown Foundation thinkers outline, what is your sort of response to that general assessment, and which, and sort of what is most likely to come if you start from their premise?
Yeah, I think that Xi Jinping has basically lost control of the Chinese military, and he's lost some influence over China's civilians' leadership. I think that we are seeing intense infighting. We don't know exactly what's going on, Dan, because the system has become even more obscure. But nonetheless, there are symptoms that cannot be explained if one dismisses these concerns about stability of the regime. So right now, we're just going to have to wait and see. But we should not assume that the Chinese system is stable. As a matter of fact, I think one of the reasons why the Chinese trade negotiators, not only with us, but with other countries, have been so intransigent is because they don't know who's going to be in charge in 3 and 4 months. And so they do not want to make any concessions at all, even when by doing so, they can benefit their own country. So China's system right now is frozen. It's paralyzed. And we see a lot of symptoms of that. And that means there's got to be something going on in Beijing.
Well, yeah, one of the things that's difficult about this, as it was the Soviet Union, is you're not seeing a popular revolt, and it's not, and it's unlikely to go down that way. If anything goes down, it's more likely to be, as the Jamestown Foundation authors argue, a fragmentation and realignment within the elite. So this, whatever happens, if she were to be deposed, or if she is just in trouble. You're trying to discern what's happening behind closed doors in Politburo meetings. You can't look at what's happening in general society and make any real informed determinations.
That's right. And politics in Beijing has always been hidden from view, but even more so now as Xi Jinping has closed off the country in the run-up to COVID and certainly afterwards as well. So we know less about China today than we did, say, 2 years ago. And that's because of Xi Jinping's actions to isolate his regime.
The Chinese energy sector, the World Economic Forum, just finds new ways to beclown itself. It published an article written by Chinese state media entitled "Build First, Break Later: How China's Green Transformation Was Built to Last." Is that right? Is the Chinese Communist Party leading the way with a green energy revolution in China?
Well, they're leading the way, but one has to question whether they're doing the right thing. And certainly we do not want to become more dependent on China's solar panels or wind turbines. Yes, renewables maybe ultimately will be a solution, but right now they're not. They're not as practical. And also they're not very good for the environment because they poison the earth. So this is not necessarily progress when you consider the damage to the earth that these production of polysilicon creates.
Well, right. And you heard Trump this week in his media availability with Keir Starmer, the British PM, talking about windmills unfavorably and noting that, basically they're produced in China and imported here, and then they, dot our bucolic landscapes, pollute the visuals, the aesthetics of our rural landscapes, in Trump's word, and don't deliver on what they promise and do so at exorbitant prices in terms of per kilowatt hour prices and so forth. So you had basically the President of the United States saying windmills are a non-starter.
No, and we shouldn't be subsidizing them. If they ultimately become feasible, that's one thing. But until then, let's not put money into a technology that may not pan out. And by the way, they do all the things that you say, Dan, plus they kill a lot of birds. Yeah,
and whales, and too. Yeah, exactly.
Well, whales, yes.
That was mentioned as well. You know what? Actually, let's leave it there. I'm up against the clock. Sorry about that. Gordon Chang, author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, as well as the Great U.S.-China Tech War. You can follow Gordon Chang on X at Gordon G. Chang, Gordon G. C-H-A-N-G, Gordon G. Chang on X. Gordon Chang, thank you as always. We appreciate your time.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciated it.
Gordon Chang joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
People ask us all the time, when's the best time to replace an old air conditioner? Simple. Before it breaks. Because when it does, you know it'll be the hottest day of the year, and suddenly you're scrambling like hundreds of others to get help during a heat wave. At Air Right Heating and Cooling, we've seen it all. We know there's never a good time to be without AC, especially in Chicago.